Hello, my loves. Continue to update new stories on Reddit, and don't forget if you like it, please subscribe and like it. Now let's start new stories. Story: We, 25M and 25F, need to change our entire relationship after a car accident. I don't know how to talk to her anymore. My 25 years old girlfriend and I have been together for 6 years, and we're talking about getting married someday when all of this happened. I am deeply in love with her, and want to know how to love her better while keeping myself sane about this. We met in college, where we were both loners, but connected over our love of running. Both of us are super into every aspect of this hobby, even more so than a lot of normal people who run. I gotta get into it all basically. We were both obsessed with types of shoes, the exact running times on certain local trails, niche techniques, water bottles, etc. Literally everything. And I'd met other people who liked running before, but not in the obsessive way I did. When I met her, it was like finding the other half of my soul immediately, as cheesy and cliche as that is. We built our relationship first as running buddies, and our entire relationship blossomed from there. We would go running together every day, and race each other in some of the most highly competitive races I've ever run. I think we've only ever skipped a handful of days every once in a while in our entire relationship. Our shared hobby is our life, and she is my whole life. We have so many memories on specific trails, and whenever we used to go out we'd talk about the latest news related to our shared interest, new sneakers that were getting released, new water bottles we wanted to try, crazy obsessive shit like that. Fast forward to the present. My girlfriend was in a massive car accident 8 months ago, and is paralyzed from the waist down. She is in a wheelchair, and it's been very hard on us both. All of the hard, scary stuff is over, but we're trying to settle back into our life and literally everything is different. For one, we can't go running together anymore, and we might not be able to ever again. She's in physiotherapy, and the hope is that one day she will be able to run again, though not for a long time. I miss this aspect of our relationship so much. We are still partners in the sense that we share certain finances, and we have been learning how to go out on dates, even having to navigate all the accessibility checks around her wheelchair, but the thing we built our relationship on is gone, or at least won't return for a long time. We've tried going to some of the easier trails, and she wheels beside me while I walk, and it was nice the first few times, but I keep thinking how much it's not the same. And since everything happened, it bums her out to talk about anything related to our shared hobby, so we just don't anymore. This whole thing makes me feel terrible and sad and frustrated. Before all of this, we had the best communication in the world, but I don't know how to talk to her about this without making her feel like I'm blaming her, or like she's not enough. I don't love her any less. My 25 years old, girlfriend 25 years old, and I fell in love through running. After a car accident, she cannot run anymore. I don't know how to talk to her about this. Story: My brother is abusing drugs and breaking the law. I don't know what to do. Hello, I am 23 years old. My brother, 18 years old, was just caught by me and my parents doing hard drugs yesterday right after a cop came to our house to give him a warning because he got caught violating his restraining order by bringing an underage girl into the house. He started acting weird 6 months ago when he met a new friend group. My parents gifted him a car when he turned 18 and he crashed it, making it undrivable. He then started using my mom's car, which he then totaled. And then finally he stole my dad's brand new Tesla in the middle of the night with a bunch of underage kids, and his friend Billy, turns out he's the supplier, and drove it into a tree, totaling it. Since then he was been sneaking people into the house, mostly an underage girl 15 years old who's my dad's best friend's daughter, which he claims he's in love with. The family put a restraining order on my brother so they wouldn't contact each other, but they still do, and he got caught by the cops because she snuck into the house to bring my brother drugs. I discovered this because he left his Snapchat open on his computer after we caught him with the hard drugs. Ever since the first accident I had been begging my parents to give him consequences for his actions, but they continued to ignore my pleas until the final car was smashed. Since then, we have been arming the house with Ring cameras, sensors, and alarms. As of now my dad has probably spent almost $1,000 on new security alone. My parents are saying they want to section my brother Section 35 Massachusetts, but I really hope they actually put him in rehab or inpatient. I hope they actually go through with it. My brother was a quiet, sweet, and sensitive person with not a lot of friends before this happened, and now it's like talking to a zombie who won't stop lying. I don't know what to do with myself. I find myself getting angrier and angrier at him and I feel guilty. He won't stop lying about everything with sometimes a shit-eating grin. Last night he jumped out of an 8-foot window in the middle of the night. I can't get a night's rest without an alarm going off, and am having extreme anxiety and paranoia. I don't know how involved I should be in this. I feel like a parent at times. I don't know how I should be reacting/treating my brother. I want to move out, but I feel bad leaving my little sister 13 years old to deal with this alone, and my dad also has been saying he doesn't want me to. I really do want to leave, but I don't know if it's the right thing to do. My brother is abusing drugs, smashing cars, messing with underage girls, and I don't know what to do. Story, help should I, 23F, break up with my boyfriend, 28M, airing all our dirty laundry. My boyfriend, 28 years old, and I am 23 years old, have been officially together since February 2024. We started seeing each other in late September 2023. Though we did have an agreement to be exclusive and not see other people since October, we just weren't officially a couple, but by all merits we were one, and we both agreed on that. This is the first relationship for both of us, and as a chronic overthinker, I struggle to differentiate between anxious and legitimate thoughts. My boyfriend partied a lot for 2 years and had a large, outgoing group of party friends and ravers. Initially, everything was great, with only a few minor arguments. However, January was a tough month. My BF went out for drinks with a female friend, Lena, who is his brother's ex, and she confessed her feelings for him. He immediately left and told me everything. But I was hurt because we had agreed not to have one-on-one outings with the opposite sex and because he didn't tell me beforehand. He explained that he saw her as a sister, as she had been with his brother for over 5 years and they had broken up only a few months prior. Although I forgave him, it triggered significant trust issues, and I started checking his phone, with his permission. Afterward, I discovered messages from December where he and his friends discussed attractive women they saw while partying, and he made a comment about one, saying, "Too bad I can't." I forgave him again after he explained that his mentality was influenced by his friend group and their constant partying and festival attending. He also gave up the partying lifestyle and distanced himself from the toxic friend group to be with me and make our relationship work. In April, I learned that in December he had invited a female friend, Sarah, to a festival we were attending together in April with his friend group. I knew her as someone my BF's friend, Mike, was in love with and believed until then that the entire friend group had invited her. However, my BF gave me a false perception of her. She didn't know anyone from the group of 12 attending except for my BF, and while Mike was attending, he would be with his separate friend group. I also found out that my BF used to like Sarah before meeting me, though they had only communicated through Instagram and had never met in person. He had deleted his messages with her in January after the fight about Lena broke out because he said he knew any little thing would trigger me, which is true, TBH. My BF said they needed another person to fill an apartment vacancy and that he invited other friends before landing on her, but that before meeting me, they had already discussed her attending with his friend group. He promised me he didn't pursue her once his friend confided in him that he liked Sarah, which was before he met me. He said they only talked about parties infrequently since then. But now, I discovered that in January he invited her to another festival happening in July, supposedly for the same reason, vacancy. Despite repeatedly asking if there was anything else I should know, he always denied it. He said he forgot about it since it's been 6 months. I don't know if I can trust him anymore. He cut off all his female friends and the toxic friend group after what happened with Lena. Which he offered to do. It was not a demand I made. I never had a problem with female friends until it became one. And even then it was his choice to cut them off. I only wanted him to block Lena. I have seen the difference in him. He is loyal, prioritizes me, and promises on his late parent that he never wanted to cheat on me and that he only saw Sarah as a friend and didn't think anything of the invite. And while he has been great since then, I struggle to process the pain from those months and earlier. I'm unsure what to believe or if this situation is normal. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Yes, I was the first person he invited to these festivals, and the names are fake. Is what my boyfriend did acceptable and not grounds for a breakup, and am I wrong in feeling betrayed? Story, was I right to stay in my marriage after discovering my husband's past behavior? Hi everyone, I've been reflecting on my relationship 3.5 years and wanted to get some outside perspectives. My husband, 27 years old, and I am 26 years old, dated for 2 years before getting married. During our dating period, I noticed he had a lack of boundaries with his female friends, which was a constant issue for me. He had been cheated on in a previous relationship, which led him to make several changes in his life, including maintaining close friendships with women. After living together for a month and loving each other's company, we decided to get married. Our long-distance relationship had been draining, so the decision felt right at the time. However, a few months into our marriage, I discovered that during a rough patch in our relationship, he had spoken badly and untruthfully about me to some of his close female friends. This happened several months before our marriage. My husband struggles with wanting to look good in front of his friends and finds it hard to say no to them. Learning about this past behavior was devastating for me. I felt incredibly hurt, angry, and disrespected, and I immediately considered separating, despite us only being married for 4 months. When confronted, he begged for another chance, assuring me that he had been loyal and respectful of boundaries for the 3 months leading up to our decision to get married. He promised to show me that he had changed and asked for forgiveness for speaking behind my back. Despite my anger and hurt, I chose to stay because I love him deeply, and I could see he was different from the man he used to be. Since then, he has stuck to his boundaries and has not crossed any lines with his female friends. It's been a year since that low point in our marriage. We are still long distance, but our love remains strong, and each day has been a journey of loving and learning about each other. While I don't regret staying, I sometimes wonder if I was right to stay from an outside perspective. Was it fair to myself to stay in the marriage after feeling so disrespected? Am I being unloving to myself for forgiving and moving forward? I would appreciate any thoughts or advice from those who have been in similar situations or can offer an outside perspective. Discovered my husband 27 years old spoke badly about me 26 years old to female friends during a rough patch before marriage. Wanted to leave but stayed because I love him and he promised to change. A year later, our love is strong, but I still wonder if staying was right. Looking for outside perspectives. Story: my 29F boyfriend, 28M, sexted another girl when we exclusive, but not dating. How can I move forward from this? My boyfriend Harry, 28 years old, and I am 29 years old, matched on Hinge in February, met in March, and started dating in May. On our second date, I asked him when was the last time he slept with someone else, and he said 2 weeks. I had a friends with benefits Jake, and I slept with him the morning I met Harry. I told Harry this because I didn't want to lie about it. Harry was visibly upset when I told him this, and when I told my friends later, they all agreed I should have lied about it. The woman Harry slept with before me was a 40-year-old friends with benefits Melissa that he met in 2023. I'm not sure how often they saw each other, but from how he describes it, he was basically a sugar baby. He cut things off with Melissa when he dated his last ex July 2023 to January 2024, but hooked up with Melissa after breaking up with his ex Nina. The way Harry describes Melissa makes her sound a little crazy. For lack of a better word, she would write him emails, send long texts, and leave voicemails for him. Harry's birthday was last Saturday and we were hanging out with his friends. A little after midnight, he received a phone call but didn't pick up. He said it was his mom who was calling. I thought it was strange that his mom would call him that late and that he didn't pick up. I asked him the next day if he called his mom back yet, but he told me it was Melissa who called him. I became annoyed because Nina, his ex, also texted him happy birthday. Nina still has feelings for Harry and has also been sending him texts throughout our entire relationship. He would either ignore Nina or would give really short responses. I'm not a jealous or insecure type of person, but I became upset because I knew if the situation was reversed, Harry would be upset at me if an ex kept texting me and I didn't block them. Basically, I became upset out of principle, if that makes sense. Because I felt like Harry was being a hypocrite. I thought to myself, why does he expect me to block my previous partners if he hadn't taken the initiative to do the same? So I ended up asking Harry to block both Nina and Melissa. He agreed to do so, but I was still annoyed that I had to ask him to do this, when I had cut things off with Jake willingly the day after I met Harry. While Harry was sleeping, I looked through his phone to make sure he blocked them. I ended up finding texts of Harry sexting Melissa about a month after we met. We technically weren't officially dating at the time, but we were definitely exclusive and had talked about being exclusive. I clearly remember that night he sexted her. I was asleep because I had work the next day, but he went out drinking with his friends and was drunk. His messages said things like, "I want to fuck you right now," and "You want me to fuck you like last time," but when he was sober the next day, he stopped responding to Melissa. In early June, Harry sent 2 messages to Melissa, but it showed up as unsent on his phone. I'm assuming he drunk texted her again, but I'm not sure if he unsent the messages when he was drunk or sober. I confronted him about what I saw. He took full responsibility for what he did and wasn't even mad that I looked through his phone. He explained he had always been insecure and upset at me sleeping with Jake the day we met. I agree that it's weird to sleep with 2 people in the same day, but I slept with Jake before I met Harry. When he texted Melissa in April, he said it was because he was drunk and really upset about the whole Jake situation. He said he has no idea what he sent to Melissa in June or why he texted her, but he's guessing he was upset at me when he was drunk that day. Harry explained that all of his behaviors came from his insecurities and wanting to have a backup plan in case I ever left him for someone better. He said this was the reason he never blocked Melissa, combined with the fact that she would buy him things. He said that although he was texting Melissa those things when he was drunk, he didn't actually mean them. He never texted her when he was sober. Story: I, 20M, cheated on my GF, 20F, of 2 years about a year into our relationship. I honestly never thought I'd cheat on anyone in my life. After my first girlfriend, I never cheated and I plan to keep it that way. Me and my GF both go to college together. I've been dating my current girlfriend since October of 2022 and around August 2023 I cheated on her with a hooker. That night I had just discovered an escort website and I didn't know one existed for my area, not even planning on going to meet one. I texted them seeing if I could get a response, just since I was obviously horny and my GF was asleep in her apartment. Most were fake, but when I noticed one was real, I fucked up and decided to drive to the motel location she sent. Once I got there I, not blaming anxiety but freaked out and thought I had to go through with it since I was already there. This woman was much less attractive than my GF and she gave me head and we almost fucked. I didn't want to, she was so unattractive to me, but I ejaculated in the condom the entire time before anything could happen. I left and the entire way home felt like the worst person alive. I got home immediately, showered, threw up, and laid in bed thinking about what to do. At the time I decided the best thing to do would just be to not tell her, as it would just create distrust in a relationship which is very trusting and great right now. I thought I would be able to just forget about it and commit myself to being a better man and never doing anything like that again, and I still stand by that and have tried to improve myself as a person this past year in the relationship and in general. However, anytime I'm alone or not busy, I find myself just non-stop thinking about what I did to her, who the longer I'm with her, the more I love her and feel awful about what I did. I feel like I need to tell her what happened. She's generally understanding, but nothing like this has ever happened between us before. I can't decide to tell her or not still. I could just continue living with it, but I don't know how long I could do that for. I know for myself I'd never do it again, but it's just impossible to prove that to her. Just looking for advice, love her and don't want to lose her, but I don't know what to do. I just want to sit down with her and explain what happened and her forgive me, but I don't know since she's such a large part of my life now. I don't want to lose her. Story: my M29 girlfriend, F29, is continually getting upset at me. I am 29 years old. Recently began seeing a girl 27 years old from Mexico. Lately, I dread going out with her because there's always an issue. This week, I added her to my gym membership and yesterday invited her to go work out together. We were supposed to meet outside at around 5:30 p.m., but she didn't arrive until about 6:15 p.m. and since she doesn't have a phone right now, I had to wait outside the entire time. After our workout, I went to change while she finished jogging. She asked if I was going to take a shower because she was, and I said no. I asked if she minded if I waited next door at a bar where my friends work at, assuming she'd be 20 to 30 minutes, but she got annoyed, so I waited outside the changing room for her. After 15 minutes, she came out, and I suggested an Uber to her place. She got mad we weren't going to the bar next door. I explained I thought she'd be longer, which is the only reason I mentioned it, and didn't mind going, but that I couldn't stay late as I needed to be up early. She gave me attitude and was dismissing me, so I just ordered the Uber. At her place, I stayed longer to let her cool down, and we talked outside. She accused me of not wanting to be seen with her and not communicating properly. I explained I never planned to go out after the gym and had told her I wouldn't be able to stay out late. She accused me of lying since it was 10:45 p.m., saying we had time to go out the bar. I told her I stayed to let her cool down and talk and that I originally planned to be home by 9 p.m. because I'm usually asleep by 9 p.m. and wake at 5 a.m. We talked for almost an hour, and when I went to call a taxi, she accused me of always running away whenever we talk. I explained I had to be up early, and she insisted she knew that, and wasn't trying to keep me. I eventually called the taxi and left, getting home after 12 p.m. and did not fall asleep until after 1 a.m. I don't know what to do anymore. No matter what I do, she finds something to be upset about. Do I just end the relationship? Or is it this salvageable? The following are just a few of the things she's accused me of or gotten upset over. Got upset after our first date because she saw me out with a female friend a week later. Got upset when I invited her to my place to go for a walk in a nearby park to see a lake she said she wanted to visit. Supposedly I wasn't respecting her integrity as a woman, and people may get the wrong impression. This was before we were official. Upset that I wasn't picking her up and dropping her off for our dates, even though I don't drive. Didn't hold her hand while walking. I stopped by a bar after work where my friends work, and she accused me of going there to spend time with my ex since she also works there. Wasn't working there that night. Got upset when I told her I wish I could run my hand across her body. Supposedly after 2 months of seeing each other, that's too intimate of a thing to say. Got upset when I indicated that her skin tone was slightly darker than mine, and she accused me of being racist towards South Americans after she was just comparing the fact that I get sunburnt and she doesn't. Walked ahead of her after an outdoor movie where I got bitten over 40 times by mosquitoes. I wanted out of there. My girlfriend is continually getting upset at me and accusing me of things. I really like her, but I'm at my wit's end. Story: the guy that I'm in 24F seeing is starting to act weird and I need help out of this situation. I think I've made a mistake. I have gotten myself into a really bad situation. I was desperate for what I thought was the type of love I needed to feel normal, but now I want absolutely nothing to do with this man or romantic relationships anymore in general. I do not look like an adult. It's genes. My whole family looks way younger than their actual age, with people thinking my mom is my sister sometimes. I look underaged, and have had people guess anywhere between 14 to 18. When I was in Florida about a month ago by myself for vacation, I even had people asking me where my mom was, and the security people in the airport pulled me aside to ask me if I was traveling with anyone. I am not particularly short, but have a very skinny build, ridiculous baby face, and braces, which doesn't help with everything. Nobody can ever guess that I am my real age. I try to hide it most of the time, honestly, because I'm starting to feel a certain way about getting older. I am not saying this to brag, but it is relevant to what I'm about to explain. Because of how I look, I usually only get hit on by 2 types of guys. The first group are obvious teenage boys who think I'm their age, and the second is older, usually middle-aged men for whatever reason. There is no in-between. Rarely does any guy my age actually flirt with me, probably because they think I'm younger. This used to really bother me because I am not interested in teenage boys for obvious reasons: age, maturity difference, and because they scare me tbh, and older men who hit on me in that context creep me out. No matter what I did, it wouldn't change. I tried to dress more sexy, but that's not me at all. I don't like dressing sexy, and it makes me look awkward. I have a very particular, girly way of dressing that involves a lot of pink and pastel colors. Probably doesn't help, but I can't help what styles I'm attracted to. About 7 months ago, while I was out at the library, a guy approached me while I was sitting at a table reading. He started flirting with me, asking me about what I was reading, and said he thought I was very cute. We ended up exchanging numbers. I admit I was a bit flattered by the attention, and he was cute, so I thought, why not, I'll call him just to see what he's like. He looked to be maybe in his early 30s, which isn't too old for me to date. I called him the next day, and we started hanging out a lot. He took me on dates, and we went on walks, and to other nice places. I found out his age on the 4th date. He is actually in his mid-40s. We didn't label ourselves as anything at first. Despite his age, he was really nice to be around. He didn't demoralize me for my more childlike interests, or way of clothing, or anything. He actually would buy me clothes that matched my aesthetic: stuffed animals, Disney things. Yes, I'm a Disney girl, and called me his baby, little girl. I thought it was just a cute little pet name. I didn't feel weird around him. I actually felt like there was finally someone who understood me. But everything changed when he found out my age about 3 weeks ago. Yes, I never mentioned it, because he never asked, and didn't seem to care. He started making these weird comments about my age. How when I eventually turned 25, everything goes downhill from there. He keeps asking me if I would stay the same for him, his baby girl. He's cold but affectionate at the same time, which confuses me. Now he wants me to do all of these role-playing things, and to call him daddy, which I've never done. I'll be getting my braces off soon. I was really excited about this because I've had them in my mouth for years, but he seemed disappointed and said that maybe I should prolong my appointments, keep scheduling out, because they're a part of me that he really likes. I am starting to get a weird feeling about him, but I don't want to jump to conclusions. I feel like maybe I want to stop dating hanging around him, but we've been together so much that even when I tell myself not to respond any more to his calls, I always end up calling him anyway. If I don't respond after so many hours, he'll show up to my house, which is bad, because my mom I still live with her knows nothing about him, and I don't want her to find out about him. And even though he makes sometimes hurtful comments about my age, I'm attached to the way he's made me feel. How he's made me feel normal for my other interests, and liked. I have never been in a relationship before, and I thought I wanted one. But I honestly don't want to be bothered by men anymore, at least right now. I feel stuck and torn. I'm sick of being in a tug-of-war between his coldness and affection. I told him yesterday that I needed a break, but he blew up at me. I don't think he'll leave me alone, and I don't know what else to do. I feel like life won't be the same without him, but I also feel so exhausted, and I don't think this is what relationships are supposed to feel like. Is there a way that I could talk to him to make him understand my perspective? I'm thinking maybe we can still be semi-distant friends who occasionally hang out if he stops making comments about my age and my appearance, which is honestly not flattering to be told I look like a little girl. I'm trying not to get my mom or brother involved, who I know will start seeing red and make the situation worse. I am starting to feel weird about the guy I've been dating. He made me feel understood and appreciated at first, but since he found out my age, is starting to act cold toward me, make comments about my weight, and calling me a little girl. I'm trying to cut down contact without things escalating and need some help. I have no experience in relationships. Story: my partner, 20M, and I, 21M, have different values. Should we break up? To get things straight, I respect my partner very much. We meet each other's emotional needs. Our communication is great, and we respect and unconditionally support each other. However, I'm deeply scared because of our radical differences in values. I'll provide brief examples to illustrate these differences. For instance, on family, he deeply values blood ties, while I believe family should be a unit made out of love that one can choose. He believes children must love their parents because they gave them life, while I think parents must earn a child's respect. We both want to have children, but for radically different reasons. He sees children as a way to leave a legacy, and he has expressed that he would pressure his children to have their own children so he can have grandchildren. I see children as an opportunity to learn and develop virtues, and I plan to give full autonomy to my children. I see my legacy through my work and the ideas I pass on to those who look up to me. He also has expressed how we would pass on gender expectations to his children. He would pierce his daughter's ears and dress her in ball gowns. I would fiercely oppose any body modifications without consent and believe in dressing children in comfortable clothes, allowing for play. I would have no issue if my child turns out to be girly, tomboy, or even transgender. Our backgrounds also lead to misunderstandings. I was raised in a wealthy Latin American household by extremely liberal parents, while he was also raised in Latin America, but his family is middle class. My background has pushed me to believe in smart work rather than hard work. As my parents made their wealth from social connections and strategic investment, he believes not in smart work but in hard work from rule following. He was raised to follow the rules and aim for traditional measurements of high achievement. I was raised with complete freedom to be autonomous, with no parental expectations, and with just support for my decisions. My parents even allowed me to homeschool myself with the support of great educators. This led me to an elite school, a 4.0 GPA in CS, and to build my own software company. I want to know how to approach a long-term relationship. On one hand, he recently turned 20, is still figuring things out, and is heavily reliant on his parents. He might grow to at least understand my outlook on life, which he currently respects but doesn't fully comprehend. Despite our love for each other, should I consider breaking up and finding someone who is a better fit? While he is a great partner in college, it would be a deal-breaker if he fails to understand my views, not necessarily share in the long term when we're contemplating marriage and children. For more context, I'm high-functioning autistic, and he is neurotypical. My partner and I currently share different values, which isn't a problem now, but might be in the future. Should we break up if these differences could become significant issues later on? Story, should I let go? I am tired. I have attachment issues and my BF has commitment issues. He also did something that betrayed my trust, and although I decided to forgive him, I am struggling. Hi everybody. I 23 years old been dating my boyfriend 27 years old for more than 3 years now. We really love each other and I really do want to marry him someday. I know he feels the same way. But throughout our relationship, we've had many problems that made almost break up many times. At the beginning of the relationship I developed anxiety and starting depending on him too much. We've worked through it and now it's much better, but it's still there. I always want to see him more than he wants to see me. I want out to move together and he doesn't want to yet. I live alone and he still lives with his parents, so he first wants to live alone and is looking for an apartment. I understand his reasons, but I am always feeling like I want more and he wants less, and makes me feel unloved even though I know he adores me. On the other hand, he has commitment issues, started therapy and is getting better, but it always hurts when he hesitates on giving a step forward. But then, when everything started getting better, a friend of mine found him on Tinder once. I talked to him about it and he said he and his friends had downloaded it only one night to look for people for a pregame before a party, which I know is true because he did it before we dated, but I had specifically told him not to do it anymore since it made me feel unrespected. I took this really badly and started having trust issues. We've been working together on it since then, but it's been 6 months and I still don't truly trust him. But I took the decision to forgive him and move on. We've really been doing better and communicating a lot. However, after 3 years and so much trouble and fights, I start to wonder if someday we will be at peace and happy. Don't get me wrong, I am really happy when I am with him and with the life we share. It really is amazing. It feels like omovai. But when we start arguing or when I feel insecure, my whole world crumbles. I really need some empathy here. Story, how to tell if my 25F partner 25M is emotionally or verbally abusive. I am 25 years old and am starting to think that my relationship with 25 years old my boyfriend of about 1 year is not just toxic but abusive. He's always been quick to anger and a little jealous, but recently he's said and done things that are making me question my perceptions of myself and the relationship. I called a female friend recently who I hadn't spoken to in months, and we spoke for about 30 to 40 minutes catching up. He acted weird on the phone call and afterwards he exploded. He accused me of talking to her about other men and intentionally trying to cover the conversation. He said I locked the door to the bathroom, I was peeing. He said I turned the bedroom fan on so he couldn't hear. We turned the fan on to go to sleep and it was nearly 10 p.m. He said I left the room to hide the conversation. He was already in bed and I was trying to be respectful because he wakes up 3 hours before me. He refused to listen to my explanation. The next day he apologized profusely over text, which is a pattern in our relationship. Outbursts followed by long apologies the next day. Today, I worked a 10-hour shift while he was at home. I did a 50-hour week as my boss was out sick. I get home and I'm talking to him while opening the fridge and he goes past me and I accidentally shut the door on his hand that has a blister on it. Although his hand was fine, he turns to me and screams, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" in my face. I apologized and said although I was looking, I wasn't really seeing as my brain is fried and I'm tired. He proceeded to go off and then was even angrier when I was upset that he screamed in my face. He refused to apologize for that. That argument then derailed despite me trying to end it multiple times because it was no longer productive. We were just going in loops. I tried to turn and watch TV and he stood in front of the TV. I recorded part of our conversation. We're in a one-party consent state and in those 2 recordings, he called me a narcissist, a pathological liar, autistic, and an asshole. I want to upload those so people can hear his voice and the context because I'm really feeling insane right now, but I'm unsure if that's against this sub's rules. At one point, he realized I was recording and took my phone and threw it on the floor in the other room. I got up and got it and he seemed to back off from that once I told him me recording was legal in this state and that if he took my phone again, I would consider myself to be in actual danger and would leave. I've been thinking about leaving him, but it's hard as we live together. Now, I'm worried that I actually need to figure something out and quickly because I'm worried this is going to derail. He claims to love me and that I mean the world to him, but I once told him I wanted to break up and I'll never forget his response, "You deserve whatever I do honestly." My 25 years old, boyfriend 25 years old, and I fight a lot, but I'm unsure if it's starting to become abusive. Story, future Fael, 56, keeps putting pressure on me, 32M, and my fiancé, F30, to get married sooner. How do I handle this? To start off, me and my future wife have been together for 3 years and we plan to do a wedding in Greece in 2026. The thing is that I want to save up for the wedding so I can pay for everything. Me and my partner don't agree with the way weddings are done in our country. You go to someone's wedding and give them an envelope with a large amount of cash, and in return they will come to your wedding and give you an envelope of cash when your time will come. I completely hate this way of doing things, which is why I want a wedding in another country with few close friends and with no envelopes or gifts. Now the problem is that it will take me some time to raise the money needed, and here is where problems start to come. My Phil keeps insisting that we should wed earlier and keeps asking my fiancé why are we taking so long. Also, he offered to pay for everything provided that we do the wedding in our own country or if we insist, to help us with the costs of a foreign wedding, to which I refused for several reasons. The first reason is that he always likes to be in control of everything, and by accepting we won't have any say in how the wedding is going to be organized. Secondly, I want to achieve something by myself and offer my partner a memorable experience, and to which I'm 110% sure that my Phil won't agree with some of mine choices. The latest thing that he has done, and to which I feel has put some tensions between me and my partner, is that he wants to take a trip to Asia, in which he wants to go with his wife and his daughter, but not with me because he stated that we are not married yet and that he would offer or take us on expensive trips if we were to be married. I feel like he is doing this on purpose to exert pressure on me and my partner. Another thing that my partner tends to agree with him and also started putting pressure on me. She usually tends to agree to what her parents say or get caught in the middle between me and them. Also, for more context, I work a decent job in the IT sector and have a good enough income to afford the Greek wedding. The only problem is that we have to wait a bit. And no, I hate the idea of a bank loan. FIL putting pressure on me and my partner to marry earlier than we planned. I want to wait because I want to pay for the entire wedding by myself, since I want to have things in a certain way and won't settle for less or something else. Phil keeps bugging my partner and has recently offered to take her and his wife on an expensive vacation to Asia, but not me since we are not married yet. Story, I feel like my best friend, 21M, is jealous of my GF, 21F, and I don't know if I should keep being friends with him. Hello everyone, I am 21 years old, have a best friend 21 years old, and we have been friends since high school, so for about 5 years. He has gone to a different country, but he still visits pretty often, so we get to see each other every 2 to 3 months. My friend is gay, and I am a straight man. At the same time, I have a girlfriend 21 years old who I have been dating for 3 years. He doesn't really support our relationship because he thinks that since I started dating her we don't really spend time. Which isn't exactly true, but it did play some sort of role. We obviously used to spend more time together when we went to school every day and had nothing to do, versus now when I have a relationship and I live with my GF, and also I have a full-time job which takes most of my day. I never thought that he was jealous of my girlfriend, but lately when I took a deeper look into his behavior, I noticed that he is acting sort of strange. Firstly, he dislikes my girlfriend even though she did nothing to him. In fact, she even baked cinnamon rolls for him once when he came over to our flat. After that, he did not even say thank you to her, which sort of offended me. Secondly, when I told him that I went on a trip for my GF's birthday, he didn't seem happy for me at all. He did not ask me how it was, all he said was that he wanted to go on a trip with me and asked me why I didn't go with him instead. I honestly was surprised by his reaction because I wouldn't have reacted this way to my friend. Thirdly, he often makes remarks about my body and jokingly insinuates that I should break up with my GF. When I confronted him about all of this, he said that he has no problem with my GF, but he thinks that I don't spend enough time with him. I don't know what to think of these, but he is the only friend I have in the city, which makes me feel even more alone. I feel like he doesn't value me as a friend and he has weird motives towards me. My best friend of 5 years is acting strange towards me and my relationship, and seems like he is jealous of my girlfriend. Story, my 27M partner, 26F, keeps threatening our relationship and lashing out. How do we address it? I am 27 years old, have been with my partner 26 years old for over a year now. The first time we met, we clicked instantly. We have the same sense of humor, have the same hobbies, and we share similar life goals. She is enthusiastic, wholesome, charismatic, the list could go on. I love her dearly, and she makes me happier than anyone else ever has. My parents and friends love her too. Everyone in my life is supportive of our relationship and are happy for us. In all honesty, I am the happiest version of myself. But the last 6 months have been going downhill. We have been getting into arguments. The topics of the arguments are normal and nothing too serious, but the issue lies in how we argue. When we have an argument, she loses her temper. She loses track of the goal and she stops being constructive and cooperative with me. She lashes out at me and says things in the heat of the moment just to harm me or our relationship. Her lashing out isn't limited to when we fight either. She has anxiety and panics sometimes. For example, we were late to the airport recently and she started getting nervous, and while I wasn't doing anything wrong or anything to upset her, it's unavoidable for me to be in the firing line when she lashes out because she's panicked. In the last 6 months, when we've had arguments, there have been a handful of times when she's threatened our relationship. I don't believe she threatens our relationship in a manipulative or controlling way in order to get what she wants. I believe she does it because she goes into self-destruct mode. No matter the reason, I told her that is unacceptable. I seriously talked to her about this back in March and told her how it makes me feel and that she can't do it. She agreed at the time. However, she threatened the relationship again in May. After then, we had a more serious conversation about how I would have no choice but to break up with her if she kept threatening our relationship. I also said she needs to stop lashing out at me. I explained my reasoning to her, and she totally agreed and apologized after she had calmed down. However, lo and behold, last weekend, she threatened our relationship again. Now, I don't know what to do. I told her I would break up with her if she did it again. What kind of precedent would I set if I didn't follow through? I love her so much, but logically I don't see how I can spend my life with someone who acts like this. I don't think we can disagree in a mature manner. I feel like I'm constantly in the firing line. I feel like we are not a team. For all the laughter, joy and happiness we have together, it's always in the moment. I recognize I might be in denial about the future, and that I'm clinging on the happy moments and dissociating from the bad moments. Our relationship feels volatile and insecure. I don't know how I can build a future with someone who makes me feel like we're on the rocks every couple of months. I've also now lost my optimism and have no faith that she will change. She brings me happiness, but she doesn't bring me peace and security. I don't see how I can build a future with someone without peace and security. But, having said all of this, 90% of the time when we're not fighting, I am the happiest version of myself. That is because of her, and it breaks my heart having to leave her. Surely, turning your back on someone you love and someone that makes you happy can't be the answer. I'm stunned with indecision at the moment. Does anyone know how to address this in a healthy way? I'd really appreciate any advice. I told my partner we would break up if she threatened our relationship again. Now she has. I don't want to break up. Story: How to bond with my boyfriend's 32M friends, including his ex, without letting it affect our relationship. My boyfriend, 32 years old, and I am 29 years old, have been together for about a year and recently moved in together. He's been connecting with his friends after a year and a half of distancing due to mental health issues. One of his friends is his ex-girlfriend, who had a toxic end to their relationship. She recently sent him an emotional email, and I suspect she might still have feelings for him, which makes me uncomfortable. He reassured me there's nothing to worry about, but I want advice on how to bond with his friends and navigate this situation without letting it affect our relationship. I'm 29 years old and my boyfriend is 32 years old. We started to date sometime around this month last year. Found each other on a South Asian dating app. We had a fair share of ups and few downs, but we love each other to bits. Loyal to each other, and we want to start a life together. We recently moved in together as well, and our parents are supportive of this. My boyfriend was not doing okay mentally for quite some time and distanced himself from his friends for about a year and a half. Completely absent without leave. They tried reaching out but gave him space. One of the persons from the friend group was his ex-girlfriend. They dated for about 2 years. It got really toxic towards the end from what he told me, since she started to force him into marriage very early on during the relationship as she was 3 to 4 years older to him. Although he liked her, he wasn't ready for a lifetime commitment, especially if it was that forced. He tried to tell her, but she never really understood, would also sometimes cry about her ex whilst living with him. She couldn't secure a job, so no financial support to pay rent, so she asked to live with him even after he decided to part ways with her. He agreed since it was a tough time for everyone. Some forms of intimacy continued, but he expressed the discomfort he was facing that this was happening and that it's not good for either of their mental state if they decided to part ways. She then moved out, but reached out to him to give it another chance, and this time with no pressure of marriage. Skip. She now is married to a dude who she found through a dating app. We also recently met his friends, after he broke 1 year of long-lost silence with them. Everyone's extremely happy to see him and angry for ghosting. Basically everyone expressed happiness because they were meeting me for the first time, but I didn't see any kind of emotions from his ex-GF who was also present there with her husband. She only spoke about food with me, didn't try to get to know me at all. She just asked him how he was. Basically very minimal talks and emotions. Apparently, just a year back, she sent him another huge email, expressing how she terribly missed him, how she missed his laughter and late-night talks, missed having him in his life. That he should stop ghosting her and talk and still be great best friends with her, how they used to be. I can't help but think that she still has feelings for him, and that is somehow not sitting very well with me. Especially now that we'll be hanging out with the gang often. I don't want to let this affect anything because he really needs his friends, and so do I need this social connection. I have no complaints about my BF. He's the greenest flag out there. He is extremely honest about everything, and I expressed this to him. He saw where I was coming from and rest assured me that we have no control over this and to not let this affect me. I will try to heed to that, but I just want to know if I'm crazy to think this about her. Story: thinking of stepping away from a 5-year friendship after she let her boyfriend come between us. My 30 years old friend Alice, 28 years old, and I initially bonded over shared trauma. Last year I stopped drinking, smoking due to the impact on my mental health. I'll have the occasional drink or edible, but my social life no longer revolves around getting intoxicated. Alice still binge drinks socially, gets high every day. When I turn down her offers to smoke or drink, she is visibly disappointed, repeatedly asking if I'm sure. Although my sobriety isn't a problem with my other friends, I sometimes cave to pressure from her. Recently I hosted Alice and her partner David for dinner. I texted her a few days prior explaining I was dealing with some family issues, not in the right headspace to entertain, suggesting we go out to eat instead. She talked me into hosting anyway, saying how excited she was, promising to make it stress-free for me. Spoiler alert, it was not stress-free at all. My partner had to leave early, so the three of us hung out in my living room afterwards. Despite my grief over said family troubles, I tried to put on a brave face. Alice produced a joint, I accepted, hoping it might relax me. For the next 30 minutes, I could feel myself talking too much about our upcoming trip for my 30th. David, who is very shy, didn't say much. At one point he returned from the bathroom saying he felt ill, was going home. I offered him my bedroom to lie down, but he insisted on leaving. Alice stayed and we went out dancing. 2 days later, Alice revealed David was hurt I had ignored him, asked what I had against him. I was confused because I recalled interacting with David that night. I told her the truth, that I hadn't meant to snub him. If I was less than socially adept, it was due to the weed. She kept repeating that I had ignored him. I asked for examples, but all she could say was that the conversation wasn't inclusive of him. I asked why she didn't do more to include him in the conversation then. She got upset, said I was trying to minimize my behavior and evade accountability. For the sake of our friendship, I agreed to apologize to him directly. She told me not to, as he wasn't ready. I was confused, but left it alone. She spent my birthday trip getting wasted at every opportunity. In a moment of sobriety, she again pressed me to come clean about why I ignored David. I got upset because I'd already told her the truth. She dropped it. The next day she gave me the silent treatment, then bought a bottle of tequila to drink on an empty stomach, while on psych meds. I confronted her. Cue the same argument. I decided to leave, enjoy the rest of my trip solo. I accepted her apology but expressed concerns about her drinking, which offended her. Since then we've had other conflicts that have left me emotionally exhausted. I've had to fight tooth, nail to assert my boundaries. After our latest fight, she is eager to mend things, but I'm starting to think this friendship isn't healthy. I hate to throw away 5 years of friendship, but I feel I need to protect my peace. After my best friend accused me of ignoring her boyfriend, subsequently ruined my 30th birthday trip, I am having trouble trusting her, think it may be time to step away from the friendship altogether. Story, I, at 28F, have been seeing my ex, 33M, and don't know if I should break it off or try to fix things. Ex 38 years old and I am 28 years old were in a long-term relationship that was majorly toxic. Both parties contributed to constant fighting, abusive threats, emotional manipulation, psychological abuse, cheating, etc. throughout the duration of this relationship. Before you write this story off and make the obvious comment that this relationship is unhealthy, just hear me out and put yourself in my shoes. I really love this man and in a lot of ways will always love this man. However, after years of putting up with toxicity and selfishness from him, I had finally had enough. Long story short, we moved out on our own and parted ways, except we never actually stopped talking or seeing each other. We go through phases where everything is wonderful and then I'll find out that he's been looking for new connections on dating apps. When this happens, I tend to wander off and start talking to new people as well. Both of us act like this is unacceptable behavior even though we are not technically in an exclusive relationship. He will tell me how much he loves me and then when we spend time together it seems like all we do is bicker or make jabs at each other. On top of that, there hasn't been any physical intimacy in weeks and he is pushing and pressuring me into it. I feel uncomfortable with this, but he makes a very fair claim that his physical intimacy is an important factor for him. It's clear that the correct answer is to break up and go no contact, but for some reason I just can't seem to do it. I clearly love him very much even if I'm not completely emotionally invested in the relationship right now, and we don't seem to be meeting one another's needs. I also don't trust his words because they don't seem to always match his actions. I truly don't know what to do or how to get through this. We have been terrible to one another and I feel this immense guilt in both leaving and staying. My friends and family can't stand him and vice versa. Does any of this stand a chance? I feel insane even asking this, but at the end of the day I love this man. Any advice, words of wisdom or commisery is welcomed. Ex and I had a toxic relationship but can't stop seeing each other. He ruined the relationship and I ruined the breakup. I feel like I'm either stuck in a cycle of abuse or that maybe I am the abuser. Story, friend didn't invite me to his wedding. My 30 years old, friend 29 years old got married last month. He hadn't really shared much in terms of his wedding plans with me and I assumed was having a low-key event with just family, which is why I hadn't been invited and I was fine with that. Until he sent me a text apologizing for not inviting me and that the event was for family and friends only. His reasoning was that he couldn't invite me because then by extension he'd have to invite the rest of the community that we associate with. I told him family and friends only, got it. We are Bengali and there is a large Bengali community where we live, but neither of us are really involved in the community. The only real participation is attending a funeral of a community member. I thought that was a weak, flimsy excuse considering our minimal involvement with the community, and then I heard from a mutual friend that a few community members were actually invited and attended as his father is a big member of the community. In addition, some of the other friends he invited are those he met not too long ago, 1 to 2 years versus knowing me for 20 years. As a grown man, I'm a bit ashamed to say that this hurt me quite a lot. I thought we were super close since we talk on a weekly basis, hang out often, and have been friends for 20 years. I have a small family and very few friends. I considered him one of my closest friends, and he would always tell me things like, I know you have a small family, but think of me and my family as your family. I feel like he could have invited me privately if he was worried about having to invite the community. Which he ended up doing anyway by inviting some members. Funnily enough, some community members were surprised that I wasn't there, and I told them I wasn't invited. My family was also hurt and offended by this situation and know his family very well. Friend still texts me on a weekly basis like nothing happened since we have many common interests. I hardly reply. Hoping for some advice on how to go about things. My close friend didn't invite me parents to his wedding but invited other friends and other community members. Story, My BF of 4 years told me to find someone else if I want something long term and that he doesn't believe in monogamy. I'm 26 years old. We've been together since I was 21 years old. He is now 31 years old. We've been together for 4 years in a monogamous relationship. I have a good job and have been stable since we met running my own business. He had a stable job, then 2020 happened, and he hasn't been stable financially until the end of last year. We also live together. We were discussing the future, and I don't even necessarily want to get married, but a promise ring would be ideal. He brought up having children about a year ago, which I would like to have some form of commitment if we were to go ahead on the child situation. I grew up in a broken home, as did he, and I wouldn't like the same for my children ideally. I expressed worries of being a single mother, and he said, "You wouldn't be, we would co-parent, and you have family and friends, you would be fine." He said no to the promise ring and that he could see being with me for about 5 more years, maybe longer, but not long term. He told me, "If you want to be with someone forever, you should go be with someone else." Which was very painful because this has been the longest relationship in my adult life. Apparently, he doesn't believe in monogamy, which is what I thought our relationship has been since the beginning. A lot of confusion with that because now I question if the last nearly 5 years I've been with this person was even real. I don't want to feel like a burden, and I don't know why he ever asked me to be his girlfriend if he doesn't believe in that kind of thing anyways. I'm just truly confused because it didn't feel like I was speaking to him, just a stranger or something. A rug has been pulled out from under me. We never fight or have conflict, and usually things are good, but I can't ignore this conversation. I feel hurt and duped, to be honest. Even in times of emotional need, he tells me to go to therapy instead of offering comfort. I feel that things went great up until the last year because I've had a lot of unexpected, uncontrollable situations that have been putting a strain on my happiness, not regarding the relationship, and everything hasn't been sunshine and rainbows. I'm at a loss. This has been a huge slap in the face. I thought we were on the same page up until now, especially when he brought up children. Is it so crazy to ask for a little commitment? Or delusional to want to grow old and have romance together? He's not much of a romance guy. I'm pretty sure he's just comfortable and not deeply in love with me. I could use some advice. My boyfriend of 4 years doesn't believe in monogamy despite our monogamous relationship and told me to go be with someone else if I want something long-term. Super confused because he brought up wanting children with me. I never asked for that or marriage. Story: my husband told me he also loves someone else. My husband, Grant, 33 male, and I, 30 female, have been together for 12 years, married 3. We originally were living in my home state, but moved to his after his parents' health started to take a decline. We've been living here for several years now. In that time I met a girl, 26 female, at work about 3 years into us moving, and after bringing her around me, my husband and her were all friends. We had a period where we didn't talk with her for maybe 2 years due to issues in our relationship with how my work was going, and her with a toxic friend group. TBF, we should have stayed and helped her out, but my husband and I were having a tough time barely seeing each other. Eventually we reconnected at the beginning of the year, and we would bring her out of her house to hang out and let her decompress from home life. A few months ago I noticed Grant was a lot more silent than normal, barely texting when we were at work and being somewhat physically distant. I eventually asked him what was wrong, and he said he was going through some mental issues. We both are diagnosed depressed, so I thought it stemmed from that. We made up, but there's still a very subtle hint of tension. When hanging or chatting in person, Grant is reserved, not as much in chat but definitely in person. I noticed in our friend chat he was the one more likely to initiate conversation than when it was just us, and I thought he was just trying to help keep her occupied. He initiated hangouts, which was weird because we were both home buddies. It started to nag at me when we would all hang out, and he would buy things for her too. I'm the one in the friend work group that people go to for advice, so I tend to pick up on things more than others, and about a month ago it sort of dawned on me that there was more than friendship there, at least from him. Recently, Grant was even more in his thoughts, and it was concerning me. I eventually got him to start talking, and at first he was very vague, and kept insisting he loved me. I didn't doubt that, but I had to guess he had feelings for someone, and guess again it was our friend. My heart sank when he acknowledged it, because it seemed like at first he couldn't admit it to himself. He eventually told me that he sort of figured it out when I confronted him about the distance, and had been battling with himself on how to tell me. He did insist he did not love me less, but loves her the same as me. I'll be honest, I'm probably still in shock and I'm not sure how to process. I feel like I should have been mad when he told me, but I can't bring myself to be. I'm not mad at her because she doesn't know. She's also in a relationship of her own and has never really expressed interest in anybody but the person she's with. And I understand people can love differently and the same for different people, we both just didn't think we would have to deal with this. I'm just not sure how to proceed. This man is the love of my life, and I don't think I can feel the same way I do for him as someone else. Leaving him isn't an option for me, I just need a way to navigate this. Bye and see you again in the next videos and stories.